Hello and welcome to today's edition of the Listening Lounge. My name is Nick Day and I'm CEO of JGA Recruitment Group, and we're specialist payroll and HR recruiters. Now, they say the quieter we are, the more we hear, and that listening is the secret to discovering the greatest of stories. So sit back, relax, and enjoy today's fantastic guest. I'm excited to bring to you today's guest, Simon Haines. Now, Simon is the founder and CEO of Simply Get Results, a strategic skills analytics platform. However, he also supports major corporations with insights and tools to identify and, more importantly, close the skills gaps to improve your abilities to hire. Tell me right off the bat, what is a skills-led organization and why is this such a hot topic right now?
Yeah, so I'd be very interested in the extent to which our listeners today have heard of the topic of a skills-led organization or work in one or aspire to, because I think this is relatively new stuff. If you don't mind my harking back to the fact that I've been in this industry for a little while, very big initiatives have come and stayed, haven't they, in the HR world? We've had the ERP and HR systems, we've had outsourcing and offshoring and shared service centers, we've had best of breed products, we've had data analytics. They've all come and they've all stayed. And I have a hunch, I'm going to stick my neck out and say it could be that the skills-led organization is one of those next big things. We are certainly very early in that wave. Only time will tell if it becomes as big and as pervasive as some of those other examples I've given you. But we've got a whole bunch of indicators that particularly mature, sophisticated organizations and bold and ambitious leaders in those big companies are embracing the idea of skills as a new and better mechanism to, frankly, make their workforce successful and relevant, make their business increasingly successful and relevant. So I guess an all-encompassing way of starting to embrace skills as central to how you think about people and work.
Yeah, love that. And there's an old cliche in the recruitment world, which is there is a war for talent or a war on talents. And I think, now in the post-pandemic, we've never seen a more stringent war than there is right now. It's aggressive out there. And there are some real challenges in trying to get some good talent in through the door. But I think we also know that the workforce have changed the way that they approach companies now, and they want to be invested in. And I think that learning and development pathway, that journey, makes this absolutely relevant topic for conversation today. What I'd like to know, though, in relation to that war for talent, the skills-led businesses, what are kind of the key workforce challenges that HR leaders perhaps need to overcome in this post-pandemic market that we're living in now, this new world of work?
I think workforce challenges and business challenges are increasingly becoming intertwined. Some of the business challenges that organizations are looking at is obviously changed customer behaviors, remote working, increased reliance on technology, greater competition. But each of those fundamental forces that have expanded over the last few years have got direct workforce challenge. You talked about the skills crisis. The fact is that pretty much every organization in every industry now is having to look at skills differently because the demands on their workforce have changed, and therefore the skills of the workforce have changed. There's economic uncertainty out there that's probably only going to increase. So that drives direct impact on the workforce in terms of costs. There is, of course, the need to continue to compete in these difficult markets, which means you need to continue to recruit and retain and engage and motivate and train and drive growth. So there's a whole bunch of parallel forces that have all come together, a sort of perfect storm. And to go back to a point I made a moment ago, increasingly, I think these big business challenges and workforce challenges are seen at board level as two sides of the same coin.
Yeah, for sure. I've referenced sort of HR professionals being a bit like composers. There's so many different things in their agenda they've got to manage now. It's like, how do we prioritize? But there are things that are coming into the workforce practices at the minute into business, such as tools and AI and systems. I know certainly as a recruitment firm, we've had to really adapt in terms of the technologies that we have access to. We like to think we're cutting edge in what we utilize. We're experimenting with AI and different things at the minute. It's very, very interesting. For those HR leaders out there that perhaps aren't sure what insights or tools they could start to use that might give them a competitive advantage in winning this skills war, what might you say to them, or are there such tools out there that they can access?
Yeah, there really are, and I guess there's an increasing realization and visibility that there's data and tools out there that are useful. I think the overarching sentiment in the market is, gosh, it's complicated, isn't it? I can see that there's lots of data. I can see that there's lots of tools. I'm not quite sure what I should do next. So as the name Simply Get Results might suggest, we want to be part of solving that and breaking down different jobs that need done into different tools and insights that can support those jobs, trying to be very clear on the roles that are most likely to care about those, whether it's recruitment, learning and development, HR business partners, and certainly a number of business roles that are relevant to those. So, I mean, if your question was what sort of insights and tools are out there, we're talking about things like being able to track the supply and demand for skills in the market, being able to benchmark your corporation against others and understand similarities and differences, and therefore where you might want to differentiate. We're talking about tools that can help you put together a skills framework or skills taxonomy really quickly and effectively. And what other example might I give? Look at the strategic end of the scale, looking at your business strategy and translating that into capabilities and skills, and then having the data and tools around capabilities and skills support all of your HR activities.
What are the kind of the skills priorities that HR leaders should be looking to recruit and retain in 2023?
We're finding, obviously, each industry has their different flavor of the skills priorities, but we're finding that across industries we can actually group them into probably two or three categories. One is that there are skills requirements that absolutely endure and remain the same or similar. And obviously it's very important for organizations to be clear on that. You know, whether it's 50%, 80% or 90% of your workforce that have the right sort of skills mix and skills requirements for this year, next year and the year after that, being clear on that only helps. You know, sure. that helps the employee, the individual, the manager, the organization be clear that you've got the skills that you need. Then you get into skills that are changing. And obviously, there are some big themes in terms of skills that have changed across industries. Remote working drives different needs for soft skills as well as technical ones. The use of technology in general is more prolific. People are having to pick up new technical skills more quickly. And then by industry, obviously the skills demands that are changing are somewhat industry by industry. Some common factors: more drive towards sustainability, ESG, net zero skills. Those are a good example of new and rare skills that organizations are struggling to get a grip on. At the other end of the scale, you've got, for example, an increased requirement for delivery drivers that everyone's acutely aware of and yet still struggling to address.
You mentioned there the soft skills and hard skills. Are you seeing more demand in one area than the other? Is that very much dependent on sector? Because we're seeing technology advance so quickly, as you mentioned, it's almost impossible sometimes to find those hard skills. So the softer skills obviously then raise an importance. I think there's a general recognition there's a lack of soft skills in relation to leadership at the minute in this new world of work as people move away from command and control into this culture of trust. In your experience, Simon, where are you seeing that those skill gaps land more? They're landing more on the softer skills side of things of being a shortage, or the hard skills, or maybe it's a mixture of the both?
I hope you don't mind my answer, but it's very much a mixture of both. And I think looking at the balance of soft skills, transferable skills and technical skills is something I would encourage everyone to do, every organization, individual and manager, regardless of seniority, because it is that balance of the things you can do technically, whether it's using the software in front of you, whether it's your expertise as an accountant or a lawyer or anything else, and the transferable technical and soft skills that counterbalance that. We have an increasing need to communicate effectively with each other in different ways. We're having to learn new communication skills. Communication skills still remains the number one skill required by any industry over time. It remains consistent. However, when you break communication down into different parts, what do we mean? Do we mean written communication, verbal, persuasive? Because those nuances are important. So I would encourage everybody to look at the balance between those, because I think they're quite meaningful. A moment ago, you mentioned leadership also, and I think there's a growing recognition that, well, we've all experienced, haven't we? Many of your listeners today will be leaders in their own organizations, and the demands on us as leaders have changed. We have all of those challenges that every individual has, and we have to find an effective way to lead through it. So we're seeing, interesting new programs around leading through change, leading in the remote environment, and so on that I think are going to be useful across the board.
Yeah, and I'd agree with that. I think sometimes there's a reticency to take on courses because by the time the course is completed, the market's moved on, and certainly in relation to some of the harder skills. Thank you for joining me on today's episode of The Listening Lounge. My name is Nick Day, and remember, every great conversation starts with great listening. Till next time.